What's up, riders? Old Man Ronin here. Welcome back to the channel. So, pros and cons of riding a Royal Enfield Himalayan in North America. Let's talk about it. Stay tuned. You know, having been a long time rider of motorcycles my lifetime, you know, I started really young. I think I mentioned before that I started when I was 5 or 6 years old on a little Rupp 100, and then I graduated to dirt bikes, and at 14 I bought my very first Harley Davidson Sportster, which I took off-road. Of course, if you're a frequent watcher of the channel, you know all of this. But after I turned 16, I bought a Suzuki GS550, bought another Sportster, used obviously. Pretty much 99% of the motorcycles I've ever owned in my life have been used. And it's given me the opportunity to ride not only all over the United States, but up into Canada, up to Alaska, down into Mexico, to Mexico City, and cross country, I don't know how many times, to California, and then also down to Florida and ringing the Great Lakes, and just generally riding pretty much most of my life. And I think that gives me enough experience to say, is the Royal Enfield Himalayan good or good enough for riding in North America? And let's talk about a few of the things that I think are the pros and some of the cons. Let's start with the cons. One of the main problems that the Royal Enfield has is what we're doing right now, highway riding. I'm running about 5,600 RPM, 56, and I'm running 70 miles an hour. Now, it's doing it. I don't have a lot of high throttle after that, but that is one of the downsides to the Royal Enfield. America and Canada in particular, and some places in Mexico, are loaded with these super highways. In other words, highways of 70 and 80 miles an hour. And I'll put the kilometers up at the top. This bike can do 70 miles an hour, and we may try when we get a little bit farther away from town here to show you what the top speed is that I've gotten out of it right before redline. But I wouldn't recommend doing that all the time. It does, I shouldn't say it's struggling. I mean, I'm having absolutely no trouble whatsoever. And I want to tell you something before we go any farther. It's frickin' cold today, guys. I started, it was 18 degrees, and of course I'll put the Celsius up there. I think it's 24 right now. But yeah. Oh, there is some good news. I solved my fogging issue. And I'll put a picture of it right here. It's called a Hanstate. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but it's an insert, a little sticky insert you put on the inside of your shield. And man, I'm not fogging a bit. Not one bit of fog in my helmet. And it was really inexpensive. So I know guys were trying to get me to do the pin locks, and they didn't make one for my helmet. This is the same concept, but a lot cheaper in my opinion. And the fact that if it isn't there, you can buy a couple of them in case you scratch it or whatever, you can replace it. So I'll do a full review in my wintertime accessories video. But what's the best thing about this more than anything else is I can take it off. I don't have to leave it on. I can take it off and have my regular screen, let's say for summertime or spring or fall. So I don't really have to have it on. But wintertime, you know, it's nice to have it right now, because I would be fogging up like crazy like we did previously. And I've ridden it around a little bit before I started talking about it on the video, but it definitely has solved my fogging issue. Well, let's get back to the video. The downside, I would say, is the highway performance. You're not going to really get the kind of speed you're going to get. Like, I can't crack this thing up and do 90 miles an hour. It's just not going to happen. Like I say, I'm cruising right now about 70, 71 according to the clock. Realistically, 68 to 71, I'm not sure. I don't know how accurate it is. I don't have my GPS hooked up today. I don't even have my reverse camera hooked up today. I just wanted to come out and do this video and give you a better idea of what I think this bike is capable of doing in North America. And I'm talking Canada, Mexico, and of course the United States. The super highways, that is the downside. So on a con, and you see I'm going up the hill here, so I've dropped about 2 or 3 miles an hour. And I'm even throttling up, and it's not really making that much of a difference. So that is a downside. So as one of the main cons of the Royal Enfield Himalayan is you're not going to have the power to do the super highways like you do with a bigger engine or a bike that has a more horsepower. Because horsepower usually means top speed, whereas torque means obviously low end, low rev power. Another downside, if you're on a highway with 60 to 70 miles an hour, this bike will do it. I'm at right now 5,800 RPM, running at 72 miles an hour. Let's crack her up a little bit higher and see what happens. There's 75. And again, the speed limit here is 70. I'm right at 6,000 RPM at 75 miles an hour, a little, maybe 6,100. I don't know, maybe going down this hill I'll get a little bit more speed. But you're pretty much, you're tapped out right there. That's about all I'm ever going to get is 75 miles an hour, maybe 80 if I'm going downhill, but that's really all you're going to get. So with that, coming back to the con of it, top speed, that is an issue. And so, but then you have to look, how many times are you going to take this motorcycle on the superhighway? Because if this is going to be your travel motorcycle that you're going to go on long distance trips on the superhighways, no, not the bike. It will not do it efficiently, because I guarantee you I'm going to burn a lot of gas at those high RPMs. Another downside to this bike, and I would say another con, would be its weight off-road. Now, again, I'm not comparing this to other ADV bikes. I'm comparing this to motorcycles that I would suggest are, you know, like dirt bikes. And it is a lot heavier than a lot of the dual sports, the lighter dual sports. But that heaviness does have an attribute. And that attribute is it's going to give you a lot of the ability to cruise a lot better on the highway, particularly when there's winds. It is fairly heavy. It's over 400 pounds. Now, in comparison to a lot of other bikes out there in its class, it's on the heavier side. So when you talk about the GS 390, or excuse me, the GS 310 or the KTM 390, those bikes are going to be a little bit lighter. Not much, but a little bit. And you might notice it. However, this bike under 60 miles an hour does really well with 2 up. And you're going to see that very, very soon in the video coming up. But those are the primary 2 biggest cons that I can say for this motorcycle for riding in North America. Now let's talk about some of the pros. And it's going to be sort of redundant, because you guys have watched me talk about this bike in such glowing fashion that the pros are going to be really something you're used to hearing. And the number 1 pro, I would say above all else, is its affordability. The affordability to this motorcycle, I mean, it's just phenomenal. And the cost of repair and parts are phenomenal. I mentioned earlier that in a video probably a couple months ago that I had a crack in one of my side panels from when the guy had it before. I don't know if he was trying to take the battery out or check the battery, and he was there, you know, there's three screws to it, and then there's a dummy screw, and I think he tried to force that dummy screw out and he cracked it. So Royal Enfield of Columbus, my local dealer, ordered me another one, and you know, it had the gigantic price of $10. Now what? I bought over the years some of the Harley Sportster side panels, and the Harley Sportster side panels are like $125. I mean, the ones that cover the battery. So I'm like, holy crap! you know, you can literally buy 12 of the Royal Enfield battery cover side panels for the price of one Harley Sportster battery or oil cover side cover. That's just out of this world to me. And that's one of the things I think is so pro on the pro side of this motorcycle, is that parts are relatively inexpensive. I think another pro is it's literally off-roadability. I mentioned over and over and over again about how this bike does superb on back roads, deer trails, dirt roads, gravel roads. This thing is amazing. The fact that it has 8.5 inches of clearance, and I'll put the centimeters up on the top there, but the fact that it has that kind of ground clearance, the fact that it has such low end torque. Now, you saw in one of the previous videos when I was crawling on a deer trail, and it literally just was basically an idle, and I was crawling up through these deer trails. Now, not a lot of guys watch the videos where they take the ADV bikes and they go jumping off of, you know, whoop-de-doos and things of that nature, and it's like, do you really want to do that when you're out on a long term trip, bouncing and jumping stuff that, you know, you might break something and you're out in the middle of nowhere? Most of your really truly ADV adventures are going to be at a lower speed, and that to me means that this bike is right in the realm of being one of the most perfect motorcycles for that low end and low speed riding. So it makes it a great bike for doing you know, basically off-road stuff and backcountry roads. Like right now I'm doing 60 miles an hour. I'm on a one of, I would call, the state routes, and it's not a back road, but it's a state route, and it's just, you know, no trouble. 55 to 65 miles an hour. I mean, I'm doing 4,400 RPM at I'd say 58 miles an hour, and I'll put the kilometers up there, and no issue whatsoever. So that's a very strong suit for this motorcycle. It's its ability to go off-road, but yet ride some of these back roads or state routes that you're going to find throughout all of North America. Most of the United States are roads like this, and if you're not a country person, I'd say all the roads that you experience are going to be like this. They're paved, they're 55 miles an hour, and boom, you can go wherever you want and just have a beautiful, beautiful day, like it is today. I mean, serious folks, look at that scenery out there. Despite the fact that it is cold as sin, and I'm telling you, I'm not a bit, my ADV suit here is priceless to me. It works so well. And so even riding in this sub-freezing temperature, and again, you know, I've talked about these gloves before too. Man, they're fantastic. They're the Rivmount. I think I said Rivmount before, but I really meant Rivmount. And yeah, hands are not cold a bit. If any hand is cold, it's going to be my throttle hand. But I think when I finally put the wind guards or the brush guards or the knuckle busters on here, I'll eliminate a lot of that problem that I would have, given the fact that it does have, like I say, the wind does go through just a little bit, but not enough to make my hands cold. So what's another pro? Fuel efficiency. I'm telling you, this thing does really well on gas. I'm averaging, I'd say, between 65 and 70 miles a gallon, and I think that is phenomenal for a well, I think it's in the realm of that size of motorcycle with that kind of cubic centimeters. So it really does well. And if you compare it to some of my other motorcycles that are getting 40, 45, 50 on a good day, I'm doing double, if not sometimes more than double, of the fuel economy. And the fact that it has a 4-gallon tank gives me a pretty good long range too. And again, as long as I'm not burning at 70 miles an hour, the fuel economy of this thing's going to stay right there at that 65 to 70 miles a gallon. And it's going to give me a long distance ability to go pretty much wherever I want. Now, if I go really slow, the miles per gallon drop. If I go really fast, the miles per gallon drop. I think another thing besides its budget friendliness, its off-road ability, the fact that it's really inexpensive to maintain, I think is its handling. This is a bike that, in my opinion, is one of the best handling bikes in my stable, if you will. but it does really well pretty much everywhere I want it to go. So if you think about a bike that's built for all of North America, this bike may be the one that is best for all of North America. In other words, it's going to handle all the back roads that you're going to have in Mexico and the United States and Canada. It's going to be able to handle all the trails that you want to go on. Let's say the Trans-America Trail or the Trans-California Trail, or any of those trails that are mostly off-road-ish, if you know what I mean. Or I think there's a Trans-Canadian Trail as well too. All these places are perfect for the Royal Enfield, and then it will do the big highways. It's just that it struggles a little bit. So if you want an all-around motorcycle, I think it literally is the perfect motorcycle for North America. You think about riding your Honda CB 1100, you're not taking it off-road. You know, you're thinking about your Road King or your Dyna or your Softail, you're not taking it off-road. So the only thing that it's going to give you the advantage of having another bike is maybe a scrambler, but even those bikes don't do as well off-road as what this bike will do. So you're going to have the ability to go anywhere you want to go in North America in one motorcycle. You can do the superhighway, just realize that you're going to be pushing it, and I would recommend staying under 65 miles an hour. 65 right there. Go a little over sometimes, but not running it constantly at 70. It's just too hard on the little guy. But other than that, I think it's really the perfect motorcycle for North America. Well, I really hope you enjoyed this video today. If you did, give me a big thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe, hit that bell notification button, share and comment. As always, you know I read all the comments and comment on as many as I possibly can. Until next time, ride safe everybody, and keep her on two wheels.